if you watch my previous videos on this channel, I'm sure you know that we've been focusing on learning the foundations, the Python foundations for artificial intelligence. And in this video, we're just going to do a simple exercise so that we can recap all the skills, warm them up a little bit so that we can, push them forward to the next season, where we're going to be focusing on specifically data science for artificial intelligence. Why data science for artificial intelligence? Well, like I said before, Python is the instrument, data is the melody, and AI is the symphony. So this is how AI progresses. You first have your instrument or the tool that you're using, your specific programming language that you're using in order to create these algorithms or create these systems or these automations, which is Python. Python is the most popular one. You then have a bunch of information, a bunch of data. And then from that data, you have a set of algorithms, mathematical algorithms that can help you construct practical machine learning algorithms that can, help solve problems in the real world, right? So that's how we're approaching all of this. We're starting from the most mastering the basics of Python to then mastering the basics of data manipulation, data analysis, data science, to then coding an LLM from scratch so that we can actually understand how it works, and then eventually doing AI engineering and deploying these models and actually building real practical AI systems and AI solutions where you guys can then take that anywhere you want to, actually landing a career in AI, building your own startup, or actually doing AI automations for businesses. So enough talking, let's actually get started. So here, this is just a simple Jupyter notebook. I'll keep all of this in my GitHub repository. I'm starting a GitHub repository where I'll just keep all my code examples, all my Jupyter notebooks, so that you guys can download those Jupyter notebooks to use them yourselves. I'll soon be starting an AI community, a school community, so that everyone can just join the community and get all the resources that I'm using, and we can just interact and everything, so that it's not just us consuming information, but actually we can talk to each other. We can, help resolve any doubts in real time. So with that being said, let's begin. So imagine you're a data scientist at a startup building transformer-based AI systems. Your team collects data on various AI models, their architecture details, their training costs, and performance metrics, all of this to help guide decisions on which models to deploy or improve. So this is the statement, right? This is the scenario that I'm planting here today. Again, this is just a little exercise so that we can recap everything we've learned in Python so far. So here's the situation, right? This is just a simple exercise, and I want you guys to pause the video for each of these tasks. So we have 5 tasks right now. Let's do the first task. The first task says to display the data set. Print each model's row from model data in a clean format. I should change this to AI models. Yeah. This is AI models right here. This is the data set. Very simple data set. Let me just change this to AI models because that's what the data set is called. There we go. So the first task is this. So I want you to pause the video and actually solve it yourself. So I'm gonna like code it out myself, but I want you guys to pause the video and do it yourself. If you've been we've been following the series, if you've been doing the exercises I've told you to do, you should easily solve these exercises so you can warm up your Python skills. All right, so hopefully you guys, pause the video and solved the problem yourselves so that you can actually get that practice going, right? We don't want to completely rely on AI and just vibe code, right? Vibe coding is not bad, but people have to learn how to do it properly. It's also important to actually know how to code. Like AI just helps you become a better programmer. It doesn't make you into one. Anyways, so the first task is super simple. If you guys remember, this is easily solved through a for loop. So right here, our data set is a list of lists. So we got this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. Each row is just a list. So all we have to do is iterate over each list. So in order to print each row, we have to print each list in the list. So all we have to do is this, a simple for loop. For, whatever you want to call it, for I in AI models. Again, this part right here, you can call it whatever you want. Print I or print row. Let's call it row. Yeah, let's call this guy row. And there you go. Simple as that. So how'd you guys do? All right, next task. Again, simple task. We're starting to evolve the complexity here. Simple task. So the next one, we're actually going to print a specific row. So we want to print the row for GPT-3. That's the first subtask. The next subtask would be print only the eval accuracy of BERT. So you guys don't have to understand what all of these concepts mean. This is just a simple toy data set that I generated with ChatGPT just for this exercise. But these are the column names right here. So as you can see, model name is for this specific column, company is for this specific column, release years for this column, parameter billions is for this one, training cost millions for this one, eval accuracy for this one. So we're focusing on eval accuracy for this subtask. Let's do the first subtask. Print the row for GPT-3. Which is the row for GPT-3? This is it. Okay. How do we print the row for GPT-3? If you remember last time in our Python foundations for AI, we talked about the concept of indexing. So when we're indexing a data structure, it's super simple. We just have to use the brackets, right? So we just have to use simple brackets. These are the brackets, the same brackets you use to create lists. That's exactly what we're going to be doing in order to index a specific list. What are we indexing? We're indexing AI models. All right. So let's index AI models. What happens when I put 0 and then I close the brackets here? Well, I access the first row. What row do we want to access? Well, we want to access the one called GPT-3. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I have to put the index 4. And there you go. I index the row that contains GPT-3. And there you go. That's that's the first subtask. The second subtask is print only the eval accuracy of BERT. So, okay, which is the row that contains BERT? The second row. Good. Now, what is the eval accuracy? This one right here. So how do we index that? Well, this is called indexing and then indexing again. So we want to index the second row. So that's going to be 1. And there you go. But we also want to access specifically the eval accuracy. So we're going to have to index it again. And we just have to repeat the same process. We open up a bracket, and then there are a couple of ways to do this. I could either type in -1 and access it that way, or I can count 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then use index number 5. And I can access the exact same value. Now, -1 is just going the opposite way. So if this is 0, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, I'm counting from the initial part to, I'm counting from left to right. Now, I could also index from right to left. So if I start from here, what would be my left side? Well, my left side, there is no left side, so I would have to restart. And where am I restarting? From the right side. And that's exactly this value right here. And since I'm going left, it would be a negative value instead of a positive value. So if I want to index this guy right here, and I'm going left, then I have to go in a loop all the way here to -1, and then I jump to -2. So I would use -2 to index this guy right here. Or I don't have to use -2 to index this guy right here. I could also go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. I can use index number 4. So if I'm indexing from left to right, it's going to be positive. So it'll be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. If I'm indexing from right to left, then I'm going the opposite direction. So if I'm starting off from here, which is 0, I'm going the opposite direction. But since there's nothing in this direction, I would have to restart and start from here. And this guy would be -1. And then this guy would be -2, -3, -4, and so on and so forth. So that's task number 2. All right. Simple, right? Simple. This is actually supposed to be task number 3, not number 4. That would be weird. And this one would be task number 4. All right, then. So it's actually 4 tasks. Well, I guess this guy would have been the other task, but whatever. We're not going to complicate things. We just got to get started, get going, right? Task number 3, calculate the total training cost for OpenAI models. Okay, so now we're actually going to do some aggregations here. Now we're actually going to be doing some calculations here, right? This is where we're starting to get into the part of data analysis in Python. And again, right now we're just using the basic tools of Python that we already know in order to do some data analysis, right? Before we actually get into some more advanced stuff like data science and then, machine learning. So simple stuff. Okay, so calculate total training costs for OpenAI models. What do we do? So loop through the dataset, check if the company is OpenAI, and then sum their training costs and then print the results. Okay, so let's go through this step by step. Loop through the dataset. Okay, we already know how to do that. We did it in task 1. So this is the dataset, right? How do we loop through it? Simple for loop right here. In fact, we can copy right here what we did in task 1 for row in AI models. Okay, here we're looping through the dataset. That's check. Okay, so done. What's next? Check if the company is OpenAI. Okay, how do we do that? Well, we already learned about conditionals, right? So what are we looking for? We're looking for the company, right? So the company, we got OpenAI, Google, Meta, Anthropic, right? We got all these companies. We want to check if the company is what? If the company is OpenAI. Okay, so if row, how do we check if, so there are many ways that we can actually do this right here. We could do like, for example, we could index the specific row, right? So the specific row that it's iterating over, right? Remember, iterating is just a fancy way to say that the computer is jumping over specific data values. In this case, it's jumping over these rows, right? It's iterating over each of these rows. So when you're doing a for loop, it's iterating over each of these rows, but you can also do like a loop inside of another loop. You can iterate over each of these elements in these rows or in these lists, right? Now, in the same way that you can index something inside another list, so like similar to what we did over here, where we were indexing a specific value in a list, we can actually index the iterator, if we want to call it that. You can call it whatever you want. Right here, so the row, we can actually index this guy to include, let's see, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, the company name. So the company name is at what? It's at what column? So it's going to be in this second. All the company names are in the second column, right? So if we're just looking at just the list, at a specific list, at any random list, we have like 6 values, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What is the company out of this list? Well, it's OpenAI. And this is at index what? It's at index 1, because here it starts at index 0. Here it's at index 1. Good. And all these other lists follow the exact same pattern. This is why you could actually turn this entire thing into a data frame, into a table. But I'm not going to get ahead of myself. So this company right here is at index number 1. But this company over here is also at index 1. And this company over here is also index 1. All of them are in index 1, right? Index 1 represents, therefore, the second column. So index 1, so right here, I'm looping over everyone. So for row in AI models, if row what? If the entire row, or if only a specific value in that row? Well, what specific value are we interested in? In the company value, which is index 1. We just literally talked about that, the second column. Index 1. If row 1 is what? Is equal to, and this is how you do equals in Python. This is not how you do equals in Python. This is when you're assigning a value in Python. There's a difference. We already talked about this. Check my video on variables. This is the equals sign in Python. If row index 1 specifically is equal to OpenAI, then what do we do? What do we do if that condition applies? So check if the company is OpenAI. Okay, now what do we do? Sum their training costs. Okay, so let's take a look at this. By the way, I hope you pause the video before you're following along. Like, it's important for you guys to actually do it yourself before you actually watch the solution. So I just wanted to point that out. So sum their training cost. Okay, what's the training cost? So their training cost, okay, here it is. So that's the second to last column. Okay, so that's this value right here, this value right here, this value right here, this one right here, this one right here, and so on and so forth. So that's the second to last value. Now we can index this either by 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, so index value number 4, or we can count from right to left and use the index value -2, for example. But just to keep things simple and not confuse you, we'll just use 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll just use index number 4. So what do we do with that value? Well, it says to focus on evaluation accuracy. So what is this evaluation accuracy? It's index number 4, right? Yeah, index number 4. Okay, so what do we do with index number 4? We're supposed to sum their training costs. That's what it is. The training cost is right here. That's index number 4. We're supposed to sum all of those training costs. So we're actually supposed to like go over every single OpenAI. So every single row that contains OpenAI. So this row contains OpenAI, right? This row right here contains OpenAI, right? So this row right here contains OpenAI. We're supposed to take each training cost in millions, each of these numbers right here, and we're supposed to sum them up, right? That's what we want to do. Okay, so we're supposed to sum each of those values. So if this guy right here is equal to this guy, then we take this guy, which is the training cost, and we're going to sum it. We're going to add it. How do we do that? Well, there's many ways to do this. In Python, there are millions of ways to solve the same problem. Here's a way that you could solve it. If you pause the video, you might have solved it another way, and that's completely fine. So this is one way to solve it. I can create a variable called I don't know, some training, whatever. I'm not pretty creative with names. I'm not that creative with names, but anyways, some training equal to 0. So we could set that to 0. We initialize it to 0. And what we can do here is that, okay, so we access this specific row, this specific value in the row. What we could do is we could take this guy, we're assigning it again, and then what we're going to be doing is we're going to add it to some training. So this guy right here is, so, okay, so yeah, so the row index 4, we're adding it to some training, which is just 0. And we are going to be calling this guy some training. There we go. Okay, that's better. Let me just quickly fix this. Okay. So we're saying that some training is up here. What is some training equal to? It's, well, what value does some training contain? It contains the value 0. So we're going to change the value. And we already talked about changing values in Python in previous videos. And what we're doing is we're saying that, okay, this value is no longer going to be equal to 0. It's now going to be 0 plus whatever value is at index number 4 for the specific row in AI models. What happens when we run this? All right. Some training. There we go. We got 161.2. Interesting. So if you were to go back and let's say 1.2, like if we literally take out our calculators, let's see, just to confirm. So 1.2 plus, let's see, 40 plus 120. Okay, I totally messed up on that. Okay, what am I doing? Okay, there we go. 1.2 plus 40 plus server connect, I don't care, plus 120. That's 161.2. Beautiful. So that's exactly what we're supposed to get. It says that I lost connection. Okay, whatever. Okay, so that's one way to solve it. Oh, and by the way, you can simplify this code right here so that it's, so this, like I can simplify it this way, by the way. So I can literally get rid of this and just keep it as that, and I can get the exact same result. What did I do here? This is just a compacted way for you to do this operation. So right here, it's the exact same thing. I'm taking some training and I'm adding it to itself plus whatever the value in row index 4 is. That's it. Again, there's another way that you can solve this code right here by using the append method and then adding everything into a single list and then summing the entire list up. You can try doing that. I highly encourage it. But let's continue. All right, task number 4, the final task, right? Again, I want you to pause the video, try to solve it yourself. Spoiler alert. Try to solve it yourself before you actually see the solution. Don't use AI, please. I'm not against AI. That's the whole point of this channel, duh. But the idea is for us to get familiar, to get comfortable using these tools, and then we can actually, complement it with AI. I'm not against using AI in coding. I think that's an amazing thing to augment our abilities, but it's supposed to augment our abilities. It's not supposed to make us dependent on it, if that makes sense. Anyways, so how do we calculate performance for models released before 2021. Let's break it down. So first step, we want to find models released before 2021. Second step, calculate their average evaluation accuracy. And then third, print the average score. So let's focus on the first task, models released before 2021. So first we want to iterate, right? That's the first step, iterate. We want to iterate over each row. Okay, my computer's about to die, as always. So we iterate over each row and we want to find the models. What do we want to do? We want to then calculate their evaluation accuracy. So all the models, so we want to filter for all the models that are released before 2021. So let's do that. We iterate over each row and we find the evaluation accuracy score. So what's the evaluation accuracy score? It's the last column. So it's the last element in each of the row. So it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can use index 5 if you want, if you're counting from left to right. If you're counting from right to left, you can use index -1. So let's actually use index -1 for this example. So we will use -1 in order to access the evaluation accuracy. And what do we want to do with this evaluation accuracy? We want to take each of the scores of each model released before 2021, and we want to add them into a single list. And then we're going to add them all up and then calculate the average, right? How do you calculate average? If any of you who are not familiar, and most of you are probably going to be familiar. If you're not familiar, that's okay, because again, I'm creating this for those people who are zero, just have no experience, that they're literally starting from absolute zero. So the average of a number is just the sum of the values divided by the number of elements. So that's how you calculate average. So in this case, what we want to do in Python, or this is also called the mean in statistics, but we'll definitely dive deeper into it later on. So we want to first collect every single evaluation accuracy released before 2021. So here is the evaluation accuracy. So we want to calculate if this guy right here, so if row is less, so if, what is the year? The year is at column 3, right? So 0, 1, 2, right? Index 2, right? Index 2, 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 0, 1, 2, right? So if row at index 2 is less than 2021, what do we want to do? Well, here's what we will do. I forgot to type in if. That was embarrassing. If row at index 2 is less than 2021, what do we want to do? We want to, take who? We want to take evaluation accuracy, which is at the last element, and we want to add it to a list. So let's define a list. Let's say that this is going to be all our, our scores, right? Let's just call it scores. And we're going to add it to this list. So we're going to say scores, and we're going to use a specific method called append. It's called the append method. Look it up. And we're going to append, or we're going to add this value right here to this list. So what's going to happen is we're going to iterate over each row, and then we're going to index specifically. So so every row that I'm jumping over, I'm going to check for this condition. I'm going to be like, okay, is row at index 2, in other words, the date, less than 2021? If so, then I want you to take that same row at index -1, in other words, the last element in the list, that is the evaluation score, and I want you to append it to the list scores that we defined right here. It's an empty list. So at the end, we are going to end up having a list containing all the scores for the models that are basically less than that were released before 2021, right? Also, if we're including 2021, then this should be less than and equal to 2021. But again, it really depends on the context. But this is enough. So now that we have this list, how do we calculate the average? Well, simple. So the average of all these scores is just going to be, well, we need to count this entire list. Again, you could go look up the documentation in Python. Don't memorize any of this stuff. Just look it up. Just type in, okay, how do I count the elements in a list? And if you do that, if you Google that, you'll find out another function in Python called len, which stands for length, right? To calculate the length of a specific list. In this case, we want to calculate the length of the scores list, right? If we were to simply print this out right here, we'll see that the length is 5. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 elements in this list. So the number of elements, so the sum of the values, how do we calculate the sum? Well, we use sum scores. So this is the entire sum. It's 85.4 plus 80.1, 76.2 plus 70.5 plus 72.8. Their entire sum is 385.0. So if I take this scores and I divide it, this is how you divide, you use this slash, by the length of scores, right? This is an operation. This is a mathematical operation. We're just dividing. We're dividing this number by this number. That's all we're doing. You can divide in Python. Simple as that. See, 20/5, that's 4. 20 divided by 5 is 4. So here, all we're doing is this. We're dividing this number by this number. We're taking this number, the result of this operation, and dividing it by the result of this operation. If we were to do that, then, and we just print the result, then we get 77. And there you go. That's the answer. So that's the end of the exercise. I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, this is just to warm up our Python skills so we can prepare ourselves for the next episodes in this season, specifically data science for Python. And now that you understand how we can use Python to analyze data sets, my light was just about to fall over. Okay. Now that you know how to use Python to analyze, okay, there we go. This cannot, okay, there we go. Yeah, my light wants to fall over. It's not going to happen. Now that you know how to use Python, and now that you know how to use this tool, that you can use this tool called Python to analyze data sets like this one. This is a very small data set. This is a super toy data set that I created in ChatGPT. All of this, what we did, all these for loops that we did, it's not very practical, right? We don't want to have to create for loops every single time. So what we want to do is we want to use a library from Python to be able to do this instantly, right? It's called the Pandas Library. And that's what we'll talk about next time. So I hope you enjoyed. Subscribe, like the video if you liked it. Like the video, make sure to like it. It'll help boost this channel up and help it grow. Share the video if you know someone who's interested in AI engineering or just AI in general. Share the video. We're creating a community here very soon. And yeah, any suggestions, comment down. Any questions, just comment down. And yeah, hope you enjoy. Done.